I will actually kind of disagree with that, but only kind of.
Yeah, we'll get
Have we
into
started
it.
recording?
Are we? I'm as Bradley Whitford said in King of the Monsters. I'm always recording, man. Which is a really weird, creepy line. When you think about
That movie's so
they
weird.
meant
That
well. I was like, no, that's
in Bradley Whitford's defense, like every single character he's ever had has been some kind of man child who's only carried through by competency. Like he's just very good at his job, but he's a man child.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Someone has the show up somewhere.
oh, that would be me. I thought I muted this,
My
but that
voice
was
is
the Wi-Fi
weird.
button, not the speaker button.
It's going all right.
Anyways, so welcome to Red Shirt Rejects. I'm your one of your co-hosts, Kyle Nelson.
I'm your other co-host, Trevor Law, no longer broadcasting from an undisclosed location. But I'm still not going to tell you because what are you, my mother?
And with us today is our super producer, Kenny Ship.
Mhm.
And today we will be discussing
The one with the
possibly,
whales.
yeah, Star Trek 4, The One with the Whales, also known as The Voyage Home, also known as Leonard Nimoy's third film, I believe. After
Second.
it's a second. Okay, so he did
Yeah.
3 Men and a Baby after this one.
Oh no, I don't know if it's his third. I thought you were talking about his second Star Trek movie.
It is his second Star Trek movie, but I believe it's his third film.
All right, so I'm just gonna like dive into this. I came into the because I've seen every Star Trek movie. I don't know how many times.
For sure.
But I was like I'm expecting to be kind of bored by this the way I was Star Trek 3. And
How
like
dare you?
I
I
was
was about to
bored.
say, like, really?
Yeah, I was bored all through all of Star Trek 3. Like I was like jotting down notes for my Exalted game. Um, um,
That is just
It's trash.
like I said that last time. This time, I think I'm gonna actually have a very bold statement about Star Trek 4 that not only it's not my favorite Star Trek movie,
yeah.
but actually it might be now. So and the reason why is because it's not as good a movie as say Undiscovered Country or Wrath of Khan or
I
uh,
would
but
I thought.
let me finish. Let me
Yeah.
finish. But the reason why I think it might be the best Star Trek movie, it is the only Star Trek movie that does not have a villain. It is the only Star Trek movie that is about exploration and learning and figuring things out. Like Star Trek the Motion Picture is kind of like that, but the gratuitous shots are so hilarious that you can't take the movie seriously.
Well, and the space anus.
I mean, I personally found that a bonus, but that's just me. Um, so, like, I think this might be the best Star Trek movie, if that makes sense.
I think
Like,
I
this
could.
is the most soul of Trek.
Yeah, and I think so. Like, there's a lot of things I want to unpack with what you just said. So I think it's helpful when discussing Star Trek specifically, but just sort of film in general, because I feel like um, we as viewers, a lot of people, they're not really into film discourse or cinema discourse, and even if they are, they are very poorly trained to understand like how to differentiate a film like say Wrath of Khan versus The Voyage Home. And we normally use the terms that say something like, well, Wrath of Khan is a better film than Star Trek 4. And that may be true, but I think that what a lot of people mean when they say better is they mean that Star Trek 2, like the Wrath of Khan or the Undiscovered Country, they are more serious films. They are more austere films. They're films about higher things. And arguably, this movie does have a serious, like, maybe even the most realistic, most serious thing of all the films. But ultimately, this movie is camp. There's a lot more camp in it than there is in a lot of the other films, and that leads us to think of it as less serious. That's why we're joking about it as Star Trek, the one with the whales, because it does on its surface present as a more campy, more fun film, and fun therefore does not necessarily mean good. For a lot of people, it's not serious. But when you look at how well received this film is, um, the awards that it was nominated for, the just accolades and praise, and the crew, and a lot of the technical stuff behind the film, and just like there's a lot up to it that arguably makes it as good as Star Trek 2 or The Undiscovered Country or First Contact. Um, but yeah.
All right. I can go along with all
Well,
that.
like, so one of the things I was thinking about when I was rewatching this, and I haven't really, like, I've seen this movie so many times, I've just got so much of it memorized that it's not really, like, I don't really seriously engage with the film most of the time when I watch it. I mean, this was the first Star Trek movie I ever watched, you know, and I think that is true for a lot of people. For a lot of people, this was their first introduction to Star Trek, and for some people, they're only like this is one of those movies that like it's separated enough from genre that people who don't like sci-fi can actually watch it and enjoy it. And I think that's actually a credit to how good the script is. But to get back to what I was saying, the thing that I think really nails this movie is how just well put together it is. And I was watching it and I was thinking about it more for the technical aspects of it this time when I was trying to engage with it. And one of the things that was striking to me is there was two things in particular that really got me. One was the cinematography. I was just watching it, and as we've been going through and re-examining a lot of these movies and thinking about the textures that a lot of them bring, I was just like, man, this movie it looks different than the other Star Trek movies. It's very cleanly shot.
Yes.
Everything is like in pretty crisp focus. Everything has got uh, uh like the color balance is correct. Like there's a everything just looks good. Like the way that it's hard for me to describe, but it's like the way that light and shadow is playing on the screen in various scenes adjusts and changes based off the tone and is appropriate to each scene, but also is varied from different location to location. And it just and there's like some really technical camera work that happens in the film, and I was just really like, wow, this is like really solidly good. And so much so I actually went up and looked up who the cinematographer was, because I was just like, I need to know who did this, and that led me down a little bit down a rabbit trail. So for people who do not know, the cinematographer, I had this pulled up and I had to restart my computer to get my camera working. Let's see. Where are you, IMDb? Why do they always put this stuff down at the bottom? It's like all the cast is up at the top and you can never find the crew. Here we
Well, generally, Kyle, let's be realistic here. Not a whole lot of people are looking who the cinematographer was.
go. Okay, that's fair.
Whereas a lot of people were going, why does the oceanographer lady look so familiar? What have I seen her?
Anyway, so Don Peterman was the cinematographer for this film, and this was Leonard Nimoy. I did check. This was Leonard Nimoy's second film, so he was still sort of learning how to, be a director and make a good quality film. So they brought in a guy who had previously been nominated for an Academy Award for Best Cinematography for Flashdance. He ends up later on working with let's see, the Coen brothers cinematographer Barry Sonnenfeld, and he did Men in Black, he did Point Break, he did Mighty Joe Young, he did the Addams Family sequel, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Like, he's just did so many movies. And all of them, are solid films. You don't necessarily think about them as like, this is no Bill Pope, but all of them are just really well shot, well made movies. which is great because normally like the Star Trek movies were made on a shoestring for films of this period. So to bring in somebody of that caliber and level of talent, I think really translates into all of the shoots of this film, both on set and when they're on location. The other thing I was thinking about was how well put together the script is, because like it's perfect. Like there's no lost beats. It's efficient, and the thing that made me think about this was like how good the opening scene of the film is. I think this might be in any movie the best sort of like previously on sequence that you get, because a lot of films that are in trilogies, they do one of two things. They either sort of assume that you have seen the other movies and just sort of go straight in, or they feel compelled like, hey, we've got to give like some backstory on what we have been doing up to this point to catch new viewers on.
And so they just like, hey, let's just like do this, but from a Klingon perspective, and like they're kind of a jerk about it.
Yeah, and just the way it is done is just so good and effective. It establishes the premise. It establishes what has been going on. It establishes the threat, because it like now there's this looming threat of, Klingon war if Kirk doesn't, die or whatever. And just the way we establish like what is happening with the crew. And it establishes motivation for why they're now having to come out of hiding and come back to Earth. It just does a lot in this one short scene to really set up the film and, catch everybody up on it. And it's just sort of like the whole film is like that. Everything is working on multiple stages of both doing the plot and character development and comedy and establishing threat and moving the plot forward. Like it's just a very, very, very good script.
All right. So that's okay.
It just draws you in. Like this is one of those movies I feel like when it was playing all the time on TV, because this was one of the Star Trek movies that you would just see randomly playing on TV back in the day. You would just catch a scene and it would just draw you in because it just has that energy to it that it just will draw you in, because each scene is just so good with like lines building on performances, building on lines. And it just speeds up. And next thing you know, you've watched 30 minutes of it.
Fun fact about this movie, this is Leonard Nimoy's favorite Star Trek movie.
It's also, I believe, Kevin Feige's favorite Star Trek movie.
I can understand why. I can definitely understand why. It's okay, you said something and I need to talk about it. I need to talk about the Klingons in this movie.
All right, let's do it.
The Klingons are insane. Okay, so I just need to like, I need to go through the actions of the Klingons in Star Trek 3 and then how they respond in 4. Mm-hmm. So either they had a rogue agent or a clandestine agent try to steal the Genesis device, blew up a Federation science vessel, murdered Federation citizens and scientists and Starfleet officers. Kirk, like, who was also acting in a rogue capacity, like Starfleet's literally bringing him up on charges, mm-hmm. also blows, like kills a Klingon crew and steals the ship in a crazy situation. So like the Klingons literally got their hand caught in the cookie jar. Yeah. So your options are two, like you literally only have two options. You completely disavow it and you're like that was a rogue agent. We had no knowledge of what he was going to do, and he got what he deserved. Or you say that was a legitimate agent. The Federation is a bunch of warmongering psychopaths, and we demand justice. And that was the option they took.
We demand justice.
Yeah, and so like that was the option they took. But like, there's no you can't go back on that. They're not going to hand Kirk over. They're not going to do it.
And credit to where it is due to John Schuck, the actor who portrays the Klingon ambassador in this scene and in Star Trek 6.
Yes.
So good.
So good.
Iconic.
I just love the Klingon mindset because like they had plausible deniability in all of this, and they take the dumbest action possible.
And that's sort of what I really enjoy about sort of these movies, going back and watching it, because like honestly, the Klingons had not been very well established even by this point in the films. They'd only been in 4 episodes of like 3 episodes of 3 or 4 episodes of TOS and a couple of episodes of the animated series, and then they'd appeared in some books. And then they showed up in the movies. And Ron Moore, who's largely credited with developing the Klingons as we know them today, really, dove into these portrayals and was like, what would make the Klingons react this way, and then developing an honor system based off of that and what we knew of them previously. Which helps explain those motivations, which, aren't very well lined out in this film beyond the need to have this external motivating force to bring the crew to Earth.
Yeah. 2, the Federation Council is the most bonkers, dumbass thing I've ever seen in my
you
entire
said this
life.
earlier, and I'm really curious as to what you mean by this.
All right, so the big Federation Council hall, right? Where the Federation Council was in. There were Starfleet officers, like, who were representing members, and they were all mixed in together.
Yeah.
So, like, if you've got like a parliament, which I'm assuming what the Federation Council is, you do not have military personnel intermingled with the parliamentarians.
But Starfleet's not a military.
Oh, Starfleet's not a military.
But they're not a military, Trevor.
I'm not gonna lie, that drives me nuts.
Costumes that they had in a closet.
2, even if they are not a military, it's still a weird protocol to have like your parliamentarians first come, first serve, guys, just sit wherever. Like, and it's just the weirdest, most bizarre thing I've ever seen from a from just like a parliamentarian system. It is just like there's no rhyme or reason, and it kind of makes the Federation make a lot more sense to me. That they would just like the heart of the Federation government is just ad hoc, and whoever happens to be around is making the decisions.
Yeah. We gathered some dudes together.
Look, all right, we need a quorum.
Yeah, just go get some admirals. I think we got some diplomats. They may not be from the Federation, but it's good enough. Come on.
I wonder if they didn't care. They're like the Klingons aren't gonna know. They're not gonna know if that guy.
No, like I almost
ball or something. I don't know. Who cares?
Can we just like make a fake Kirk body and just hand it to them and make James T. Kirk wear a mustache from now on? Can we just do that?
We can have him named James R. Kirk.
his identical twin brother.
See, James here has been hidden here multiple times.
James Rigelius.
So I know that's such a dumb thing to harp on, but I'm still looking. I was looking at it like, what the fuck are these people doing? What is this? like did literally like the cinematographer or the director that day be like, no, fuck it. I don't want those weird ass aliens in the front. I want like the military officers up in the front here because they look better on camera. Like,
yeah, the red, it looks better.
Yeah, it looks better. It looks better. Well, it doesn't really make a lot. I mean, the Vulcans, like, they have like they're prominent, and the Andorians, like, they should be close to the front, and they should all be together, not like, because like the aliens are literally spread out. Like the Vulcans are like in random spots. They're not even together. That's insane. That's insane.
Well, maybe this isn't like maybe so.
They literally call it the Federation Council. The president of the Federation is the speaker, and he calls everybody to order.
Well, maybe this is a gallery, like, in the way that like the people up top on the House of Representatives.
Then you don't say the Federation Council. You don't, like, you say ladies and gentlemen. Ladies, gentlemen, and associated species of non-genders. Like, It's insane. It's the most insane, and it's such a dumb thing, and it's such a small thing to harp on. I
Literally,
know.
I've never heard anyone mention this, and it's amazing. I love it.
I'm just
I mean, I want to go back and rewind to that scene now.
like
I
go
do.
to the scene and watch it because you're like, holy shit, they're just like sitting wherever.
They're just sitting everywhere.
Yeah, just-
Spread the aliens out. Hey,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
rising. You're gonna be
like
over here now.
it's not like these aliens are not like members of the council who actually presumably have a voice, whereas these random Starfleet officers report to the council.
It kind of reminds me of the Academy scene in the '09 Star Trek. And it's not that it's him having to try, like, it's not that him having a trial. It's like, oh, that's still a little weird. Why are all the students there? Like, all the students. Like, he hasn't.
That's such a good point. I never thought about that, but yeah, it's I don't know. Maybe
Since we're talking about things that bug you,
okay,
that has always driven me
I
nuts.
may be able to justify that. So because he's effectively he's not being is he being court-martialed?
It'd be
they're essentially
disciplinary.
deciding whether they're going to
Yeah.
kick him out of
So-
the academy.
So presumably in a serious situation, a lot of things like that you would have like the entire crew would be witness because he has committed a crime against the crew.
Yeah, the crew,
But
the
like,
whole academy's there. Go back
I mean-
and look at this. Well, I know we don't
no,
have that,
but that's what I'm saying though is that the academy is the crew.
Maybe they just have really robust open meeting records. Or open meeting rules.
open, very transparent.
You know what? You know what? The Federation would absolutely be something like that. Where like, no, I want to be in this meeting, but why would I want to be in it? And I'm going to bring 200 other people to it too. Okay, I guess we'll figure out seating. Maybe we can move it outside if it's a nice day.
The cool kid in class cheated the test. We got to go see how he did it. They're trying to kick him out.
Oh fuck yeah, let's go! I think I saw that dude naked jumping out of a 2-story window.
So moving on, we'll tease this out, get a little bit out. So one of the things I kept thinking about watching this movie is I kept unconsciously and then consciously comparing it to another film that pops up in the middle of an established franchise that sort of unwittingly sort of changes the format or expands the format of what the franchise can look like, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? This is kind of like the Guardians of the Star Trek franchise, because this is the first one that I felt like all the other Star Trek movies are like deadly serious. They're serious films. They have almost no comedy in them, and they are, they're just very serious films.
Yeah.
And this one is like takes a little bit of the comedy element that is shown up in 3 and expands it into just sort of it's not. I don't want to say it's an absurd premise, but like kind of like
it's a fish out of water story.
It is a
it's
fish out of water
literally
story.
literally
mean
a
is
fish
that,
out of
like,
water.
This is a series which up until this point has not acknowledged that. I mean, this actual TV series hasn't acknowledged it, but the movies up until this point had not acknowledged, oh yeah, we can go back in time. It's not really a big deal. Like, we throw in some calculations in a computer and we just slingshot around the sun. And if we don't die, we go back in time. It's pretty cool. And so they go back in time to steal a couple of fish. Now, obviously, they're not fish. They're mammals. We learn about this. Take them back so it can talk to an ancient alien
And save Earth.
and save Earth.
And potentially get us out of being drummed out of Starfleet and probably thrown in jail.
Because we're criminals.
We are criminals.
We're criminals. We blew up our ship.
We
found a
committed
stolen Klingon
so
ship.
many crimes.
Yeah. And so it's just sort of like an absurd, farcical premise. And they take it seriously. Like,
Yes.
there's never a point at which you feel like the characters are in on the joke.
Yeah.
Like, they're always very serious about it. And I thought that was a really smart move just from a storytelling perspective, because it could have very easily shifted into farce.
Yes.
And they didn't. They were very sure to be like, no, the main characters are grounded. The people who are going to find this funny are going to be the audience. Like, the audience is going to be in on the joke and how this is funny, but no one really in the scenario is here to realize this is funny, except for our one protagonist who's from that timeline.
Important note.
Some funny stuff.
Does anybody remember what Kirk drinks at the pizza place?
Yes, it's a Michelob.
He orders a Michelob.
Yep.
And he seemed to like it.
Right? I wonder how much Michelob paid for that.
I know. That's what I was thinking. I was like, I wonder how much Michelob paid. Like, Michelob, the drink of Captain Kirk.
The drink of the future.
Real quick, comment from Mark back on the Academy scene. Who doesn't want to see Kirk get his ass handed to him? I guess.
I mean, Kirk is at his best when he's getting it handed to him.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
You got to back him into a corner.
And also, thank you for liking the stream, Mark. We also appreciate that.
Kirk is not the person you send in when things are going right. Kirk is who you send in when everything else has already gone wrong.
Like, literally ethereal hand of God in space, plucking
yes.
ship out to
yes.
throw you into a tournament to talk to Abraham Lincoln. Like, that's
yes.
the person you recruit.
Yeah. God, Star Trek's weird.
Exactly. But that was the other thing about, like, this movie is it's like, I feel like of all of the, I think other than The Final Frontier, which I think takes the lessons from 4 and takes them in the opposite direction of where they need to go. But I think 4 and 5 basically feel the most like a original series episode. It's like an expanded episode. You've got this one-off premise. They go do a thing, and they accomplish it. They reset the status quo at the end, and everything's good.
I do want to point out something about 5, though, that it started.
Yeah.
If you ever need a new character, just Spock has a new sibling.
Oh, God.
Yeah, 5 did do that. But actually, that still came off of TOS, though, because Spock hadn't talked about how he had a mom and a dad, or that his mom was human.
It's just like we need an idea. What if Spock had and then they throw in a family member?
Exactly. That's always happening. And
also, Sarek is great in this movie.
Oh, he's so good. Mark Leonard is just he's a pro.
But like it's like I love Sarek specifically in this because he's like, my son is getting shit on. The people that saved my son are getting shit on. Fuck you. Like seriously, like he just like balls up into the Federation council chamber and it's like, see this guy? You killed Kirk's son. You blew up the Grissom. Like, what are you talking about, you lunatics?
Yeah, right. It's like, yeah. I mean, I'm not impartial to this, but also I'm a Vulcan and I'm right.
like you, like objectively, you've committed so many more crimes than Kirk has.
I want to say something on Kyle's Guardians comparison, because if you think about the comedy of Guardians of the Galaxy, if you pull that out, that's the edge of what Voyage Home is, because they're being very intentional about the comedy. So it's a mix of the campiness, things we've already come to expect from the comic book genre there. So that's what Trek is doing in the sci-fi genre. It's like there's things you've come to expect, but we're not going to play those for like straight up laughs. Of course, though sometimes it does do that. Like they're not writing out a bunch of punchline jokes like Guardians would. And then you also got the era camp as well, which what makes it really work and gel together.
Because both are like heavily drawing from the 70s and 80s. Like,
Yeah, but like the thing that I think is different in the comparison of, say, Guardians to Trek is that with Guardians, it does the thing that I really hate that Marvel does, which is that it will use, I can't remember the name for it. There's a proper term for it. We've talked about it on the site when we've written about
Oh, the
more.
undercutting of tension. But
Yes,
yeah,
how
I
it
know
undercuts the tension and the character development and stuff by making a joke. And this doesn't ever do that. Like the jokes are in service to the story and to the scene, and it plays into it. But like when the ship is sinking and Kirk is having to save like George and Gracie from drowning, he's not making jokes.
No.
Like it's not, they're not undercutting the dramatic tension by making a joke.
And like even the jokes actually help the dramatic tension, because
in some cases, yeah.
Spock is like just saying these weird random things, making him look like a crazy person, and it's hilarious. But Kirk is like, I need for you to shut the fuck up.
But it's also funny because like yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
It's also funny because it's like, oh, but this is like 1980s San Francisco, so there's definitely a lot of weird guys walking around in monk outfits acting strange, and it's like
I love that she just kicks them out. She doesn't call the cops. She's just like,
and
get out of here.
And I think about this because in like every other Star Trek story ever, there's always a big deal about making sure that they get like the appropriate outfits for whatever time period they're in. This is the only time they don't do that. Uhura and Scotty are literally wearing Starfleet uniforms,
and it's and no one cares.
And no one cares.
I mean, someone's probably like, I guess they went to like some weird army surplus thing I don't know about.
Yeah, like no one cares. It's not a big deal. Like it's not important. They all just still like blend in.
Now, if Star Trek Discovery ever goes to like Brooklyn in the 2000s, they can just walk around in their uniforms.
That'd be great.
Oh my gosh.
And there's just all of these great comedic moments that do that sort of they're funny, but they're not like, and they're at the expense of the characters, but not necessarily at the expense of the story. Like, of course, the famous nuclear
vessels, and the cop just
like
staring
a Russian
at him.
character is talking to a cop in San Francisco asking where nuclear ships are, you know, and you've got Scotty like saying "hello, computer" into a mouse, and you know, that perfectly memeable moment. Double dumbass on you. You've got the my favorite one is I have two favorite ones. They're both Spock moments. One is when after Spock does the mind meld with Gracie, and he's like, well, they are quite fond of you, but they are not the hell your whales. And just like the way he just keeps inserting curses into
just like weirdly and inappropriately.
He has no idea how to curse. He's never done this before, and he just keeps doing it because it's how he fits in. I'm fitting in. And later on, when Kirk and the doctor are going to go get food, and she's like, well, do you guys like Italian? And Kirk and Spock have the no, yes, no, yes, no, yes. Like, that's just a really funny bit.
So like going back, I didn't realize like, so there's a scene when what's the oceanographer's name?
I'll look it up.
Anyway, where she's like freaking out because George and Gracie are gone, and she bumps into the ship in like one of the worst falls I've ever seen. Jillian. And so like, but like the second she like sees the helicopter and the frame being pushed into the invisible ship, and she's like, oh, they are from the future. They are future spacemen sent to grab two whales to save humanity from an ancient space probe. All right, I will commit all the felonies. Let's get your Russian friend out of police custody in the hospital. I am in. Custody. Like she doesn't. There's not even a conversation. She's just like, I'm in. Felonies. Possibly treason.
Mark concurs. He says, hey, in New York in the 70s, you could walk around in Andorian makeup and no one would care. Yeah. Yeah, it's an Andy Warhol piece. Yeah, that's what
I mean. Yeah, couldn't you walk around New York like I think one of the best Ninja Turtle quotes is Like, what the hell was that? It's like, that looked like a giant turtle in a trench coat. So, like, I think you can walk around New York dressed however you want, and no one will care.
I cannot remember the name of this movie, but a lot of like film critics who live in New York all talk about this one particular moment, this one particular film in the 80s in which this old Broadway, they're in this like restaurant thing where they're all standing and waiting at a lunch counter to get food or whatever, and this old like washed up Broadway actress comes in and like sings a song, and everybody talks about how that's sort of like the most new, like it's one of the most New York films because of like things like that they get right. And so in the same way, it's, I don't know, I think this movie gets that sort of vibe. Like they realize that's an area of the story that they don't have to be concerned with, and they just sort of move on.
Like, I mean, honestly, like San Francisco in the 1980s, whatever, sure, like walk around.
I
like,
think you had a little bit too much LDS.
LDS, you say. Those Mormons. Oh gosh, it's just a fun movie. It's so like, it really was a breath of fresh air. Like, just like fun adventure. Like no one's dying.
Right? It's all like, but there's still that element of threat. Like,
yeah, but like if they screw this up, Earth will die.
Yeah, it knows how to shift out of that from the funny, let's go do things. Like, you know, it's always like one of the things that you talk a lot about when you're writing stories, particularly like this, you are always looking at a way to escalate the threat. And this movie does a very good job of escalating that threat by introducing the probe. And then, oh, well, we got to time travel. Okay, we've time traveled. Now what do we got to do? We've got to fit in and do the things. But we're running out of power. So we've got to get this thing.
Got to fix the ship and change the ship so that we can haul these whales back.
Yeah. It's always like these little things that keep going on. It's like, oh, well, now we've got to. Now Chekhov is injured and he's in custody, and we've got to rescue him. And all right, now we've done that, but now George and Gracie are gone, and we've got to go out into the open sea and find them. Oh, and now there's a whaling ship. All
Speaking
right,
of which,
them up. Now we got to. Yeah, it's just it keeps going like that.
There is something I'm very impressed about transporter technology.
Yeah.
That is established in this movie. It can work in an elevator.
Well, yeah.
It can work in a moving elevator.
Yeah.
How many pieces of technology do you guys know that are wireless can work in a moving elevator?
Oh, that's a good point. You're right.
Like, that's incredible.
Yeah, because I mean,
I am far less impressed that it can teleport 2 whales with all the water, and like, wow, it can work in a moving elevator. That's incredible. What a marvel of engineering.
But yeah, I think this movie
See, audience, the exasperation on both of their faces, that's what gets me up in the morning.
It's true. But yeah, I really enjoy the way that I just flipped my computer over.
I didn't want you that exasperated.
The movie switches back and forth between the comedy and the tension in just a way that I think should be taught in film school. And specifically because movies don't do this now, and it's really irritating to me that they don't. I want a movie that's fun and that's camp, but I want a movie that will not kick my knees out from underneath me, you know, to do stuff. Like, give me character development, give me tension, give me plot, give me the funny, but like, you know, don't cut one to service the other. Like, you can have all. You can have it all. Anyways, so
real quick to your point, and I hate to kick Rise of Skywalker again. I keep killing this poor horse. But there's not fake. There's a key thing of what you're saying between this and modern cinema. It's not fake tension.
Yeah, that's true.
Killing someone that we know that you're not actually going to kill them. We know you're not going to do that. That did not happen. Chewbacca and Rise of Skywalker. That didn't happen. We knew that. Everyone knew that didn't happen. So there's no tension there. And then 2 seconds later, what do? You show us that So even if you were going to actually commit to it, you don't do that. So every step there, you see where characters still are, you know the predicament and to your point about the stakes, so you know what's going to happen if you don't get him out of, you can see the dominoes fall.
Yeah.
And that is effective tension that modern cinema just doesn't feel interested in. They're like, I need to give you a gimmick, or I need to just scare you with this one scene. But it's like, you could have built that with these progressive dominoes that everyone has tracked from step to step. So if this one thing falls, we are thinking back to, oh crap.
This is all I'm going to say about Rise of Skywalker. Me and Kenny started laughing hysterically so much that I was afraid we were going to have to leave the theater about halfway, 2/3 of the way.
It was
halfway. Trevor's hitting me in the arm to shut up because he could tell. He could tell, and I'm like,
we were both doing it. We were both doing it.
I tucked that deep in there, and as soon as we got to the lobby,
every single one of those ships can blow up a planet.
I should have used a different. I should use a different example. I'm sorry. I should have used a different example. I knew that was going to get us going. I'm sorry, Kyle.
No, you're good. I was going to say, but to your point, I think that's really good because if you're looking at an action films, two of the big things you really need to see when you're watching an action film or an action scene in particular, you need to see both the action and reaction of the same shot, and you need established geography. And in the same way, when you're dealing with a plot that has these moving mechanisms, you need to have clearly established stakes, and those stakes are going to be what propels the tension, and the complications that you throw in the way of the plot need to be able to escalate it in a predictable way. And the script of this movie is just so good. Like, everything is just so tightly wound up that everything is executed perfectly.
And like, everybody like even gets like a little like a little arc, like not necessarily an arc, but like a little scene where they really shine. Like Sulu.
Everyone has a role.
Yeah, and like it like, this feels like the most ensemble-y of all the movies. Like it really does.
And that's a Nimoy thing. Like, Nimoy started with 3 and then brought it out in 4. He really established he really was the one to break out of the trinity of Kirk, Spock, McCoy that everybody talks about. Like, he's really
Uhura really didn't get anything. Now I'm thinking about it.
Well, Uhura was the one that translated the whale song. She's the one that was with Chekhov to get the energy from the nuclear vessel.
Yeah, but she had the least amount of stuff to do.
She traditionally has the least amount of stuff to do. Yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah. Although in 3, she held that one guy hostage,
which was great.
Yeah, she stuck him in a closet.
I'll go back to something Kyle said earlier about if you're watching this on cable TV and you stop on any scene and makes you want to, you're like, ooh, hey, it's Voyage Home. I think to the ensemble nature really helps drive that home because, like, yeah, we could talk about the computers. Like, there's all those like scenes that you immediately pull out, but I think the thing that helps stand, I don't want to say stand the test of time, but just something that always makes you like, even if you don't remember exactly what's going to be said in that particular scene, you're invested in like what they're doing. So going back to that building of moments. So regardless of what it is, you're like, ooh, where are they in this succession of tension? Because I want to, ooh, are we close to the end, or did the thing just start? And I think that's a really good hallmark.
Yeah. Yeah. It just does a really good job. As far as performances go, what did you all think of the performances? Was there any particular standouts? Any that you want to shout out?
Sarek, I think Spock was really good in this one. Leonard Nimoy always gets the most out of his actors. little joke. See. Anyway, I thought it was funny. Damn it. Those are really the only two I was like, yes. Everybody else I thought was very good, and like, no one was bad.
Yeah.
No one was bad. and everybody was like B plus or better, which is actually kind of amazing.
Yeah, the people getting split off and paired off in the movies really well. I'd even say like the bit like actors coming in just for a couple scenes, like things on the bus. The scientist that helps them develop the what's it tritanium.
Transparent aluminum.
Transparent aluminum.
That's such a fun scene. Not now, Madeline.
And they both acknowledge, like, you realize we're screwing up the
timeline.
We're screwing up like time right now.
And I'm pretty sure this entire like situation is why the temporal prime directive was created.
Oh, because they just screw it up all over the place.
All over the place.
Like, they don't consult anybody. They're like giving people like technology and selling glasses and stealing whales and committing crimes.
Yeah. Or if it already was enacted, they're having an aneurysm. It's like, you did what?
Right.
But like in their defense, like this is so okay. So for the people watching this who don't know, I hate time travel.
You hate it. It's like the one trope in sci-fi that you despise.
Yes, and I if I could, if it were a person, I would grab a giant club and beat it to death. Like, I hate it so much. But if you're going to do time travel, this is how to do it. Like, this specifically is how you do it. You inject a bit of camp, you have fun with it, you don't make it deadly serious, and you just kind of don't think about the temporal paradoxes that you're creating. Like, you just don't think about it. Because you're breaking the timeline.
So I like time travel in single shot movies. I don't really like them being introduced into a franchise. Ergo, like when I was always, as much as I like Endgame, it's always going to be something that drives me nuts. It just is, because I'm like, I wish this hadn't been brought into this franchise, because now there's going to be lingering problems. If a universe has it and can make their own rules and they generally stick to them, there might be one or two things where I'm kind of like, but
Terminator Geonosis.
Oh, awful, atrocious.
Yeah.
But the first Terminator and Judgment Day are very like, if you just watch those two, it's a concise. Okay, send the thing back. Try to kill John Connor. Got it. Cool. That's it. Then they make it. More complicated. But they, so like I said, rules, single shot, or to your point, just don't give a damn.
Yeah, just don't think about it. And like, if you, and so like, but when a movie or a show does that, understand, I will never take you as seriously as I did before. Like, don't get me wrong. That's not saying I'm not going to enjoy it, but
and it's also, I feel like, because a lot of time travel stories, with the way that they work, a lot of them are designed to undo a mistake that happened prior in the plot. So in a way that I was saying that a joke can undercut the tension, using a bad plot device in a bad way, in a way that undercuts the tension of the story you're trying to tell, also bad.
Which eventually I'm going to do an episode called Every Time Voyager Uses Time Travel. And that's going to articulate why time travel is stupid. But that's another episode, guys.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
As far as performances, the two that I think stand out are, one, Leonard Nimoy. He does a really good job portraying a different Spock, which that's the thing I think is most interesting about this film, is that this is a different Spock than the Spock that we have known up until this point. It's hard to describe what about him is different, but there's just a different mood. There's a different cadence. He's not whole yet.
His Vulcanness is like amped up super high.
He's like super Vulcan. He's like a Vulcan at 11, and he's really not embraced his human side yet.
He doesn't even understand how to embrace his human side.
He doesn't. He's very confused by it, and so I think that's very good. He has like a lot of really good, like, he's very funny in this movie, while not breaking at all. Like, so just the way he delivers a lot of the lines is just masterclass. Like, he's so good at the way he does a lot of that. The other person who I do not think gets as much praise as she deserves is Catherine Hicks, playing Jillian. She carries this movie on her back. Like, she sells so many things in this movie. Like, she's great. Like, she really has the only real arc, I feel like, in the whole film.
Mm-hmm.
And they layer a lot of the plot of the story along, what she does. She's great. She's fantastic in the whole film.
I will agree with that. I think she does do an excellent job. And especially, and like, I just like, they do. It's very rare for me to see a character who's like felony time, and it takes me out of it. But I'm like, you know what? I buy it. I buy how this like normally upstanding citizens just going full tilt, like full tilt with the crazy spacemen from the future. Like, I loved it. Like,
Well, and you think she really cares about the whales? Like, she really does.
She does. She really cares about the whales.
Yeah, she really cares about them. Like, she wants them to have a good life. Like,
and speaking of whales, we're going to talk about whales now.
All right. Was there any performances you want to talk about, Kenny, before we go?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, I gave kind of my general overview with the supporting cast. That was the other thing that stood out. Sorry, since Guardians has been in the brain though, before you do whales, you said spaceman taking you away. Peter Cool's mom immediately popped in my head when she said that for Catherine Hicks.
Right.
I was like, oh.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I still don't fully buy it, but I see it.
But she doesn't give him her number. Like, she is the one that ghosts him.
She. I mean, and in her defense, you should ghost Kirk. Like, that's the most reasonable thing a woman could ever do.
Oh, that's another thing the temporal cords would be pissed about. You did.
You brought some random lady from the past?
We should just do a list of the violations. We should just like everything that's going to piss them off.
So many things.
But
all the rules.
But go.
Like, I'm just picturing like Kirk, like with like the temporal prime directive, him just shoving it into a shredder.
But yeah, I love that because they joke about that in the episode with the time
trouble with tribbles.
DS9. Yeah, they talk about how Kirk was the worst,
and he was.
He was.
Okay, whales. So this movie was all about saving the humpback whales. Did this movie actually have a measurable impact on saving humpback whales?
And I think this goes to the legacy of the film.
And the answer is kind of. It did raise awareness on whale conservation, and humpback whales are making a huge recovery. And there are like massive pods of them across Australia and South America and up the west coast of North and South America. Whales, as a general rule, though, are in the midst of a massive die-off. So...
Yeah, but this was one of because the anti-whaling treaty came out like after this film came out. So an argument could be made that this helped raise awareness in order to get the anti-whaling conventions.
I think it did do that, and it did definitely help with whale hunting.
Yeah.
So it did. Like, it's a rare thing to say that a movie did make the world a measurably better place. So I will say that the world is a better place for Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home existing. I literally can't say that about any other Star Trek movie, but I can say it about 4. Like, it made the world a measurably better place.
I mean, it's hard to say that about any film. That's a pretty high bar.
It is a pretty high. I mean, Insurrection did make the world a better place because you got to see like a swole Patrick Stewart climbing a ladder shirtless. So that was nice.
I'm just gonna nod on it.
This is a complete tangent, but one of the writers I follow on Twitter shared some screenshots of Picard today where he's wearing his like his like pajamas, and it's like got that deep V down to his like belly button. And it
Yes.
says anytime the producers needed and he said something like anytime the producers need a honeypot in TNG, it was always Picard.
I saw you share that.
And everybody's like, no lies. That's it.
It's because you would think Riker or Troy would be a honeypot, but no.
I mean, there is
always
a
Picard.
couple of like deep V shirts that like Riker got put in though, but I mean it's Picard. We
Yeah,
all know it.
it's also just funnier when it's Picard.
It is.
When it's Riker, it's not funny.
It's
just like
inherently funnier when it's Picard.
Yeah,
'cause
exactly.
He's just so stodgy and stiff.
yeah. Whereas when it's Riker, it's like, I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
we get it.
we get it. Yeah.
Trombone sounds.
Meow.
Anyway, so was there anything we disliked about the film? We've talked a lot about the things we liked.
All of my like gripes with the movie are fairly small.
I have
Like-
one
like-
very specific, very weird gripe, but I'll let you go first.
I mean, no, like it's just like my gripe are like the way the Federation is structured, like or like all this like meta nonsense that's the kind of stuff that belongs in like a cracked article from 10 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
So like I've got problems with the film, but they're all dumb and they're all like fun little ones.
Yeah, my very weird, very specific gripe is that the miniature that they crawl out of at the end of the film is not to scale. It drives me bananas.
Now, hold
Because
on.
We
Now,
do
you
get
made
a good scale of the size of the Klingon ship
Correct. That
because of the
should be-
whaling ship.
That pod area, the very front of the ship. Like, okay, so yes, so that's actually very good. So in scale, like, and this is the thing that kills me. So if in the movie you have the bird of prey sitting on top of the whaling ship, and you can see in scale to that whaling ship, which is a large ship, it's
And you see dudes on the whaling
100,
ship.
yeah, it's 100 to 150 feet long ship. Like it's a fairly large vessel for a whaling ship for what it is. And so it's large, and you've got this mammoth like bird of prey sitting on top of it. So the front area of the ship that the bridge is in is at least the same size as this. And then at the end, they're crawling out of it, and it's like a third of the size. Like, it's not even close to the same size. If the whole ship was scaled down to that, there would be no place to put the whales.
I just
Drives
love
me
this.
insane.
So audience listening to this, if you make movies, I want all the things we've complained about this movie. Feel free to tell us to shut the fuck up if you ever see us in person.
I was about to
Like-
say, because Kyle, I rolled at your thing. I was like, and now you brought that up. I'm like, really, Kyle?
I know. It's something that has like, it has always bothered me. And if you ever go to Ex Astra Scienticia, they actually talk about this because it's not just me.
I'm sorry. What if we go to where, Kyle?
Okay, so there's several Star Trek fan sites out there, and Ex Astra Scienticia is one of those that like gets really into a lot of more specific like things about the stuff.
No,
and
keep
so
keep
there's
going.
a whole article
So
about
keep digging
how
this hole.
the bird of prey has had consistently inconsistent sizing throughout the franchise. And it's a very interesting article that I highly recommend people read because it's great.
Okay.
Anyways, it's always bothered me. It's something that sticks out. I know it's very pedantic, and like no one notices this almost, but it bothers me. It tasks me.
Yeah, you definitely don't. Like, my thing is equally dumb.
Let's see. Mark
Fair.
over on Facebook said, it's interesting how the film sells that Scotty can add the whale tanks without a crew welding everything in place.
Right?
I mean, Scotty knows how to work. Like,
He's a miracle worker.
like like it would have been great if there had been like some like complex welding system that we had seen him like setting up in like 10 minutes. That would have been an excellent thing.
Yeah, that's another thing that, like, as far as the geography of the ship goes, that's like kind of confusing, because it's like, okay, you've got like these radiator things on the side. So how are they slotting? Is there a bay door that opens at the top? Like inside the ship, when you're seeing, like, it looks like there's places you could slot in plexi or whatever, but it's like, how are they getting it in? And why are they having to use that and not a transporter? Like, they have a transporter, can't they just like beam it in? Like, I don't. Maybe they can't because they're trying to conserve energy, because they don't.
Yeah, they were trying to conserve energy.
Yeah.
Although you would think they would like drop open the bay door instead of beaming people in and out of the ship if that were the case. Because like there's a like.
Well, they did. They dropped in that. The only reason, yeah, because they were trying to conserve the beam ins. Yeah, that's what it was. Because they hadn't gotten the thing back from the mission yet. I don't think
they had just gotten it back.
No, they had by that point. Because then they because Seventh Heaven's mom sees them, and so yeah, she sees them, and then that's when
Seventh Heaven.
But no, they had gotten.
When I see
Uhura had the device with the energy on it, so that had happened prior to that scene. Okay.
Let's just move on from this, anyways. Kyle.
Sorry, this is where I'm.
I will say, okay, I'll say one thing. The whale part, that's actually. I think when I say I have an issue with the plot, people think, "Oh, the whales." Like, actually, it's not the whales. This is the second Brove in the movies that is attacked or come back to Earth, trying to figure out what the hell has happened on Earth. So V'ger gets upgraded. It's like, I'm coming home, father. And then and then the probes, another alien group, just like, WTF? What's going on here? We lost contact. What's going on? So I know it's not the exact same, but just like a very small nitpick for me.
So weirdly, there is something that has addressed this that actually exists, and it's lower decks.
Oh yeah, there was a joke about this.
So here's the thing: this kind of thing is happening to planets across the Federation constantly. This is an everyday thing. Like once a month, there is some weird ass probe that is approaching a Federation world that they have to stop what they're doing to save. That's just the nature of that universe. Weird things happen constantly. So much so that it's a fact of life.
That would be exhausting.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the funny jokes of to get into one of the things I really like about Lower Decks is that is like one of the funny parts is that all these people are on these like really big awesome ships are like just apparently really stressed out all the time, and some of them just really would like to go to like a chill ship.
Yeah, and like the reason why the crew members we see are the ones that thrive off high stress situations. So like those are the people that rise to the top of Starfleet, but that reinforces the high stress nature of Starfleet.
Because the season 2 trailers got what's the guy? He's on the Titan.
Jonathan Frakes or Bob or Boimler?
There you
Boimler.
Go. Boimler, because he's freaking out.
Yeah, because like being like Riker's helmsman would be terrifying. Like it would just be like insane. Like Deanna Troi would be getting impregnated once a season. Like Romulans, she does.
I know.
I know.
We're gonna have to talk about that at some point.
No, I'm never gonna.
No. Sorry. Sorry. Let me be clear. Not that specifically. Weirder Trek shit.
No,
like when something goes past even weirdness for Trek. Like, why did you decide to have this in here?
Like ghost grandpa daddy thing.
So it was a ghost that was banging Beverly's grandmother that Beverly then started banging. That I think sucked life force or something.
even if one of those details is changed, it doesn't make it better. There's not. I'm trying to think. It's like, oh yeah, if there's like just drop one person. No, it's still not. Yeah, it's not.
No, it's still weird.
Still weird.
I mean, is that as weird as like Deanna having like a full grown son walking around that like she gave birth to 24 hours beforehand?
Yes.
And then he turned into an energy being and left. It's a season 1 episode. Like,
Ugh. Anyways, so this movie.
I want to know what the comments say about everything I just said.
Ooh, Mark says, poor Troy uterus. And Mark confirms the Beverly says, yep, ghost gigolo.
So,
God.
poor Troy's uterus. That should be the name of a podcast episode. Kyle. Poor Troy's uterus.
Seriously, it's so fucking weird.
So
Got to make eye contact the entire time. It makes it better.
transition us from this weirdness. Fun fact. So I mentioned earlier about Kevin Feige. This is like one of his favorite Star Trek movies, if not his favorite Star Trek movie. So there's a fun connection to the MCU in this film that the punk on a bus, which is the character who's wearing he's the punk. He's got the mohawk and everything. He's listening to punk music on the bus, and Spock gives him a little neck pinch. He has a cameo in Spider-Man: Homecoming as an old punk. With a boombox. It's in the scene with the where what's his name tells Spider-Man to do a flip. He's like in that scene, and so it's just a fun little cameo deal. But one of the things I didn't know is that dude, Kirk Thatcher, is like he was his assistant. He was Leonard Nimoy's assistant during the making of that film, and he apparently is he started off his film career being a puppet guy. Like he managed and operated a lot of puppets. Like he operated animatronics on Return of the Jedi, Star Trek 3. He works as an assistant in this film. They did use some animatronics for the whales in this film. And he goes on to end up working for primarily Jim Henson Company, working for the Muppets, directing several films for them. Like a lot, if you've seen like any of their like viral Muppet content that they've done that's been on YouTube in the last decade or so, he directed it, like the Bohemian Rhapsody video that they did years ago. He wrote the screenplay for Muppet Treasure Island. It's probably the biggest thing he did. But yeah, so
Kyle, that is in fact a fun fact.
it is, isn't it? So it's like, so yeah, it was a fun little cameo that yeah, I'm sure there's more Star Trek 4.
Also, it had to be fun to be able to flip off your boss.
Right?
Oh man, what was his name again?
Kirk Thatcher.
Kirk Thatcher.
So, is there anything else you want to talk about the one with the whales?
I guess I'm just surprised how much I still like it. I think we joke about whales about it so much that I assume sometimes like I don't want to pop that in, but I end up watching the entire thing. So yeah, I agree with that. Like it's just
it's an excellent fun movie.
Yeah, I would say it's a perfect movie. Like it's one of the things that's really hard about doing episodes about a movie that's this good is it's like I don't know.
We talked about it for 2 hours, Kyle. Like, don't worry about it.
I know. I'm just like, how do I examine this? How do I dive into this more? Because I don't really have a lot of negative things to say about it. It's a really good film. My only complaint is probably
Scaling.
the scaling. Okay, no, I do have to say one thing. I really like the moment at the end of the movie, like the return to status quo. Because you got to think about, this is a trilogy. Like this is the end of the trilogy. Star Trek 4, Star Trek 3, or Star Trek 2, 3, and 4. You've got the breakdown of the team. You've got the death of Spock. You've got the breakdown. The team comes back together, but the status quo is destroyed, and they at the cost, like they destroy the status quo so that they can save one of their own and bring the team back together. And then this is them coming back, restoring everything, and it ends with them. Kirk is now no longer an admiral. He's a captain. He's got a ship.
Which probably everybody.
The Enterprise.
Yeah, and like obviously, like the Admiralty is like, yeah, this is definitely for the best. Get him away from Earth as far away as possible.
Like all these old people, because they're old by this point. They're all like in the shuttle, and they're like, oh God, what garbage scow are they going to give us now? And they come over, and they're like, oh, it better not be the Excelsior. And it comes over the pump, and it's a surprise, and it's just such a wonderful moment. Just a wonderful moment into a wonderful movie. I loved it so much. Every time I watch it, I'm just like. And then they promptly ruin that moment in Star Trek 5. But it's a great moment in this movie.
So, does anyone else wonder, like, what's the time that's passed from Spock, Search of Spock till the end of that? Because
I'll tell you this, it's 3 months.
So they put together.
No, so they've never established this in canon. So we don't know exactly, but the best theory I have found is that this was a different ship. So this was a new ship that was coming online that they renamed once they knew that they were going to do this, and they renamed Enterprise at that point. They either renamed it the Enterprise after the previous Enterprise was stolen and destroyed, or this was the Enterprise that they were intending to roll out once they decommissioned the old one. Or they did it after Kirk and them did that. They scrubbed it off the ship real quick. We don't know, but it's one of those three.
And that makes sense.
My bet is
otherwise.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's real quick.
So, I think the Defiant took 4 years to build, the original one.
Well, and that was also a test bed too, though. So they were building a whole new ship, so that meant you had to design it from the ground up. This is in a pre-existing, ship class, so it would take a lot less time to build and to construct it and everything.
But Akani's also bigger than the Defiant class.
True, but it still doesn't matter. Like, it's going to take, like, you can look at, say, the Gerald Ford class aircraft carriers. The amount of time it take to the time you get the monies appropriated to the time that the first ship rolls off the line is significantly longer and more expensive than it is to get the second one off the line.
But one thing that's already been established is that the Federation bureaucracy is infinitely more efficient than our own.
Mm-hmm.
Like legitimately, like it is.
You have to, in order to build a ship, you have to have plans for a ship. And whenever the first ship of the class, there are no plans for that ship. So you have to not only build it, you have to plan it out. You have to figure out where the cables are going to go. You have to figure out.
After looking at the ship from lower decks, I can definitively say you do not need a plan when you build it.
Well, no.
He's not wrong.
The headcanon thought process on kitbash ships as they exist in the Star Trek universe. So this is not like they're purpose building a brand new class like they are the Enterprise D. Like the Galaxy class is a really great example of a ship they're building from the ground up. The Nebula class, on the other hand, is clearly not a ship they're completely redesigning from the ground up. This is one where they're just taking pieces that they've already designed for the Galaxy class and slotting them into a different configuration.
What if we like put a Reliant class ship and a Galaxy class ship, and we like pushed them together and they made a baby?
Exactly.
That was the Nebula.
It doesn't take as much design like time to do that as it does for the initial ship of the class. So
Mark loved the Thatcher story. Also noted that Thatcher wrote the punk song on the bus.
yeah, he did. He said he didn't get any that's the only thing he gets residuals on is that song.
That's incredible.
In an interview, he said he doesn't get it for the cameo, although he does get it for the cameo in Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
How much are the residuals for something like that?
I don't know, but if it's anything like what Ed Brubaker got, so Ed Brubaker, who wrote, he's written a lot of Marvel comics. The most prominent comics that he wrote on that's relevant to this is the Captain America comics in the mid-2000s. And so he invented the Winter Soldier, for instance. That storyline came from his arc in the Captain America comics. He got a cameo in either Civil War or Winter Soldier in one of those two movies. It was a non-speaking cameo. He was a background character, but he gets residuals off of that. He said effectively he gets paid more for the residuals on that than he has anything else he's ever done for Marvel.
Jesus.
It's just like the residuals on a Disney movie or a Marvel movie are just, it's not just that, like, it's like standard contract stuff, but like the movies are so big and they make so much money that the residuals are going to make on that are just going to be insane. And like comic book writers are not paid well. Like, they're not paid well at all, and they don't make royalties on their work. Like, it's work for hire, and they don't make money off of, like, if they write a character like Winter Soldier and they use Winter Soldier in a movie, you do not get paid for that. Those characters are owned by Marvel, so you do not make money off of anything you create for them. So yeah.
I was gonna say,
hey, Disney, we want to be extras in all of your movies.
I'd like to pay off my car.
I'd like. Can we get some of that Disney money?
Sweet Disney money.
Like, I promise I won't say anything negative.
Sell out. I will.
Let's sell out.
I can promise you that. I will sell out and talk about how The Rise of Skywalker was incredible and absolutely not a franchise-breaking movie.
Like,
can I do it under a pseudonym?
I will help write a movie like that is just product placement for Goldman Sachs in a good way. Like, let's sell out, guys. Let's make that money.
I feel dirty. I just really.
No, Halliburton. Let's do a Halliburton one. Yeah, that's even better.
They need some good PR these days.
Raytheon does too. Let's the Halliburton Raytheon project.
So,
well, no, that's Iron Man.
Okay, so if you were to write a Star Trek movie that is.
I broke Kyle.
Okay, well, I'm just not even gonna go there anymore.
If you're gonna write what?
I was gonna say, like, so if you were to write a Star Trek movie that shilled for Halliburton, it would be the opposite of this movie.
We must go back in time to kill a whale.
Yeah, because this movie is like sternly environmentalist. He's like, we've got to go back in time to kill this whale because if all the whales are alive, then that means we won't get all the oil or whatever. I lost.
We need to destroy the biodiversity of the planet because it'll prevent a virus in the future. That's my Halliburton movie.
Ah, okay.
So like they gotta
monkeys.
like the heroes are like burning down forests.
Wow. That's a tough one to swallow right there.
No, it'll be fine because it'll make a lot of money.
Okay, yeah, so that's where we're at the end of the
See that
episode.
Disney, they're clearly not willing to sell out as much as I am.
Yeah, clearly, because they sold out to the whales that have no money. So I guess next time we're gonna talk about
Star Trek V.
Space Jesus.
Star Trek V.
So
What
the moral,
does God, the one with God?
they're
They're on a mission from God.
I actually am going to defend this movie because I think it is amazing.
I low key love the movie. I'm not gonna lie.
No. See, I love it because
movie.
the movie is great because there's actually subtext to it. Because only toxic masculinity can stop cults. That's the moral of the movie.
Oof, I need my pain.
Yeah, only being deliberately unhealthy.
I really,
you
I
know, you
haven't
brought that
watched
up.
this movie in years, so I'm very curious as to how that specific plot is going to play out in 2021.
Trevor said that
How is
before,
that
but
going to be like? That movie's all about becoming whole and examining yourself and your demons and
But Kirk deliberately spits in the face of all that
he
and is all like,
deliberately does.
"No, I will not examine my demons. I will accept the morally bankrupt person I am, and I will continue to spit in the face of anything that gets in the way of that."
including God.
Yeah. So I think it's a great movie. I think it's really got timeless lesson.
this is gonna be the promo for in 2 weeks. You should just read it all, circle it.
Yeah. So I will sell this so hard that our entire audience will just want to cry.
Cool.
I'm just
Well,
everyone's sad now.
In the meantime, I'm gonna go get lost in Yosemite and pretend that I'm not lost when Uhura comes to pick me up.
Okay. We love you all.
Oh, yes. And I guess in closing, subscribe to Nerd Union at our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch channels to catch our weekly shows. You can catch our weekly Nerd Roundup, State of the Nerd Union, Mondays at 8 p.m. Central Time with hosts Commander Ship and Steve Fox. You can watch our resident critic on the Commander Ship Show as he dives into movies and TV every week with co-host Major Tom. And if you love what we do, join the union at our Patreon page. Starting at $3, you can support our writers and hosts to continue producing live content and events, reviews, commentary, and our scripted videos. You can also follow us on Twitter at RedShirtRejects. I have not updated it in a minute, but we will be soon.
Yeah.
We love you very much.
Yes.